One of the biggest games released in the past 10 years, because I know it's getting on in age, but hey, one that is still incredibly highly regarded. NieR Automata, you got your creator, Yoko Taro. He is also joining, and I got a video that's in the back catalog, in regards to Sakurai and his recent comments, but the creators of Dragon Age, or not Dragon Age, sorry, they're too busy ruining other franchises, but Dragon Quest coming out and making similar sentiments, which is kind of leading us to believe that, Japan is also hopping on the bandwagon with South Korea and China, of all places, in being incredibly based and making sure that gaming doesn't completely and totally fall off a map and collapse like it did in the mid-80s when it comes to saving the Western gaming industry. Well, actually, it can't burn down quickly enough, okay? As somebody who's been playing games for as long as I have, I've always had a soft spot in my heart, and I've always just kind of aired towards, Japanese games to begin with. So yeah, if everything in the West burns down, yeah, I'm totally fine with that, okay? And even when I started to dip out of gaming, that's when the West was really taking over. You had all your Bethesda slop pumped out, and people were going, oh, this is great, it's revolutionary. But how many people continue to look back fondly on Fallout 3 or Fallout 4? Yeah, I digress. Yeah, extol more of the virtues of the game that has the depth of a puddle and the breadth of an ocean that is Skyrim. I'm sure we'll all just stick around and tell us, how big of a masterpiece that game is. Oh my god, guys, it's so exciting when I could... Anyways, but Yoko Taro says NieR Automata was made without worrying about overseas reviews. Yes, I mean, it's one of... Here's the thing, man. Like, this is a game that resonated in Japan, especially in the West, for its character design as well as its gameplay. So, yeah, if there's any truth to this, I mean, we got a formula to follow right here. According to a recent interview, Yoko Taro says he was told not to worry about overseas players when making NieR Automata. As reported by Automatron, Taro said that when he was developing the game, he was told by producer Yosuke Saito that he should make a game that targets the Japanese market without worrying about overseas reviews. That's not too dissimilar to what, Masahiro Sakurai was talking about. Again, I gotta release that. I'll release that in due time, okay? Maybe on and around when we get some information about a potential Smash Brothers game for Switch 2. Anyways, the comments come after industry veteran Shuhei Yoshida praised the game, saying that it revitalized Japanese game development, and showed that Western audiences were able to appreciate Japanese storytelling without special consideration. And yeah, more from Mr. Yoshida, who has been a bang on in his post-Sony interviews. That's another video that I have in the back catalog. Might have to release some stuff over the summer. Anyways, former PlayStation president says NieR Automata saved the Japanese video game industry because it convinced developers to stop imitating overseas trends. Yeah, see, that's a little bit more pointed than, just don't focus to what those stupid shill reviewers have to say. They'll eventually fall in place. Otherwise, really, they don't really mean shit anything moving forward. In the opinion of former PlayStation president Shuhei Yoshida, were it not for Yoko Taro's NieR Automata proving to his fellow Japanese game developers that their own cultural identity was their biggest creative strength. So in fact, a lack of diversity is their greatest strength. Interesting. The entire local industry would have long since deceased. Okay, long since ceased to exist, rather. Whatever, I like the way that I say it better. Yoshida, who first joined Sony as one of the original PlayStation console devs, before being promoted to Sony Interactive Entertainment, right, VP, in 2000, president in 2008, and eventually retiring this past January. Yeah, right, retiring. Offered this glowing praise of 2B's fight against the machines during a recent career retrospective interview given to Munachika Nishida for Japanese news outlet AV Watch. Asked for his thoughts of the stark difference between the niche nature of Japanese media, in particular video games, from the late 2000s to the mid 2010s. Oh, that was the peak. I think that was probably the creative peak. Like, for me, obviously, like the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis is like, that's an era. Even when I go back and fill in the gaps of the games that I missed out on, like Final Fantasy VI and Chrono Trigger were games that I went back to in my mid 20s to properly experience. But that's the point in time where I think that was probably peak creativity, when everybody in the industry was firing on all cylinders, if I can get the proper terminology out. But realistically, man, like, okay, when the PS3 was really coming into its own, That's when you were getting some banger games, man. Late 2000s, mid 2010s, yeah, and the massive popularity such productions enjoy today. The former Sony president, rather, began by recalling how the source of this discrepancy was, in fact, as games became more realistic and Hollywood-like titles started emerging, and there was a period during the PS3 era when Japanese creators thought we need to make something that will appeal overseas. Let's try creating something with a more Western feel. Yeah, that's when you had Western RPGs. That's when BioWare was like still really cooking, and there were legitimate reasons to think that the Western gaming practice was the proper way to go ahead and make games, but in the long term, in the grand scheme of things, yeah, not really. The people that were super amenable to the whims of the Anita Sarkeesian types, just see my previous video on the day in regards to Gamergate for proper confirmation on that. When Naughty Dog was cooking with the Uncharted games, like in that same time frame, right? Like you had the first Last of Us, and well, that wasn't exactly a gameplay juggernaut. It had, like, for as much credit as that narrative gets, like, even with the limited gameplay that was in there, like, there was a good way to interweave that story with the gameplay. For the best way for that story to be told was through the medium of a video game. But yeah, when it comes to properly interweaving those stories and gameplay, gotta give it up to the Japanese, man, okay? Especially going back to those old school JRPGs on the Super Nintendo, on the PS1, 2, and 3. It's like, they're still unbeaten. But BioWare got real close, man, with Mass Effect. God damn it, man. BioWare. That one's always going to hurt. Anyways, but in the end, he explained the machine... Oh, yeah, that was translated, obviously. Because there was no original context for the overseas market perspective, it ended up being something like, what is this? And it didn't succeed. Well, yeah, exactly. This end, Yoshida then noted how a game that drastically changed the situation, in my opinion, was NieR Automata in 2017, released during the PS4 era. 2017 that came out. Jesus. That's simultaneously... Like, I thought it came out earlier than that, but it also still... It doesn't seem like it came out all that long ago. Anyways, I believe that Yoko Taro created NieR without thinking about selling it overseas at all, said the says the PlayStation vet. However, it ended up being hugely popular abroad. Yeah, I forget what the sales totals are, but that thing absolutely crushed, man. When it came out, like, I even remember this was one of the final E3s, or at least one of the final ones that I watched. But yeah, you had Yoko Taro show up at the Square Enix one year, held a press conference, and his goofy ass showed up with the mask on and everything, saying, hey, I'm working on this new game, NieR Automata, you guys should check it out. And he was doing a bunch of goofy shit, and everybody memed on that Square Enix conference. But I would imagine those games that were shown off probably went on to be some of the most successful that were out there, because they were quintessentially kitsch Japanese fare. Whereas if Square Enix had any of their Western fare shown off then, like they had significant interests in Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal, both of those studios, how well are they doing? Yeah, exactly. So with NieR, everyone realized this, okay? It wasn't just about thinking, this is fine, but rather this is the only way we must do it. We have to do it this way. As a result, Japanese creators began to move away from trying to imitate the West and started creating content based on their own culture and things they understood, believing that the world would appreciate it. I mean, yeah, because you take a look at what has come out, right? Like, the gaming industry since 2017... en masse has kind of taken a nosedive. Like, outside of your Souls games, like what really has stood the test of time? Not a whole lot of stuff. And if it has, it's either come out of the indie abyss, or it's come out of the East. Well, and FromSoft is Japanese studio, so yeah, that still ends up being cut from the same cloth. But I'm just thinking of some of the most successful games that are out there, and yeah, they stay true to their vision. Like, finally, people are coming back around on Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and it's a masterpiece in my approximation now that people have the opportunity to play, because it's not just stuck to that stupid plastic clown box that is the PS5. People are playing it on PC, modding the piss out of it, and having a great time with it. And it, for as much as people want to slander it, isn't woke one bit. But back to NieR, okay? I believe it can clearly divide the Japanese gaming industry into two periods, before and after NieR. Okay, NieR is the title that made everyone realize the importance of creating something Japanese. It was a turning point that revived the industry. That is lofty praise. The development of digital distribution also plays a significant role in the shift. Yoshida concluded of his praise, with digital distribution, even niche themes can succeed. Japanese culture has gradually spread overseas. With that, gathering people from all around the world who are interested in it can create quite a large market. 100% true. Notably, following its official publication on AV Watch, Yoshida's interview would subsequently catch the attention of none other than Taro himself, who would respond by both offering his gratitude for the praise and a slight clarification that he was not solely responsible for NieR Automata's Japanese authenticity. Yo, good for him, man. Like, he could go ahead and be like, yes, I'm so fantastic. Take the Neil Cuckman approach to this and go, yes, I'm such a genius, and it's about time somebody recognized me for the absolute auteur that I really am. But no, he's just going to be Yoko Taro through and through. I'm honored that Automata has been highly evaluated, but it was Professor Saito who instructed me, don't worry about overseas evaluations, just make the game for Japan. He wrote the game director via his personal Twitter account. To be more precise, I remember something along the lines of him saying, Yoko-san, it's important for you to make a game for overseas audience, so at least try to make the best game, or make your best to make it for Japan. So yeah, if it succeeds overseas, well, that's fantastic. But long story short, make a game that's Japanese. You know Japanese? Okay, try to make it for the Japanese people. More people like it, that's fantastic. You know why? Because it's going to be authentic. It's going to be a congruent story through and through. And that's not just advice for making video games. That's not just advice for Japanese developers. That's advice for everybody. Make something that is honest to you. Make something that you are satisfied with, you are happy with putting it out in the world. Whether it's a game, whether it's a movie, whether it's a short, maybe whether it's a video, whether it's a script that you're working on, it doesn't much matter, man. As long as you're satisfied with it, and as long as you do good work to it, that you aren't trying to kowtow to some mythical force that you think you might need to include to it because you're trying to draw on a bigger audience. No. Make something that is honest, because authenticity is what sells in today's day and age. If you're being congruent to your own thoughts and your own actions, you will be rewarded. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but sometime in the future, more so than trying to wear a mask, no offense, Yoko Taro, for something that is not you. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.